I'm joined right now by Teri Adler, who is a power player out in the Wellesley area from Pinnacle Residential Properties.
Yep.
Teri, thank you for stopping by.
Thanks for having me. You said that well.
Now, this is weird. This is a first for me because you have a history in TV. You're a TV anchor and reporter for many years.
Yes.
So I feel like we should reverse the roles here. This is
you're
the true professional in this arena.
I'd love to.
How did you make that, or what made you make that transition to real estate?
So yeah, I was a television reporter for many, many years. It was my first career. And I landed at Channel 7 back in the late 90s and stayed there for about 8 or 9 years and loved every minute of it and loved everyone at Channel 7. It was a great, great career. I always had an itch to run my own business. And before I was even in Boston, I was in Hartford, Connecticut, anchoring. And my agent said, "Oh, you know, you have an interview in Boston." I said, "Oh, I want to go back and get my MBA." And he said, "It's your hometown. You need to try and get this job." And so I always had it in me that I wanted to go back to business school. So Channel 7 was great in that they gave me the opportunity to work in television and get my master's in business, which I did. And then I was looking for that second career, and my now boss was my realtor, and she said, "You should be in real estate." I grew up in Wayland. I went to Babson. I know this area very well. I worked in television. And so I said, "I don't know, it kind of changes my identity." And she said, "Try it. You'll do it." So a good friend of mine was moving to Los Angeles and said, "Just sell my house." So I did, and I loved it. And of course, the first transaction, I got a direct buyer, and then they asked me to sell their condo in Wayland, and it was easy peasy. And I, thought, "Oh my gosh, this is the easiest job," which it's not. It's a lot of work.
True story.
And then it just took off from there. And my now boss would call me after a live shot if I was in Winchendon at 11:30 and say, "You have 3 children. You should be home with your kids. Come work for me." And she persevered, and it paid off. So
and you've done pretty well with the transition.
Yes.
Selling a lot of homes in the Metro West area.
Yes.
Now, you said you're from Wayland.
Yes.
You live currently in Wellesley.
Yes.
And a lot of people moving out of the city or coming in from other areas are drawn to the W towns, right? What's interesting is that all 3 fantastic towns to live in, but very distinct from one another.
They are. Well, I have the privilege of having grown up in Wayland and now living in Wellesley. So yes, Wayland is a little more rural. You know, you're in your car a little bit. It's not sidewalk driven. There's no train into Boston, so you'll drive or take the commuter rail from a little bit further, towards Boston. But great town, great schools. Some of my best friends are still my high school friends, and you do get a little more value for your money out there because you're a little farther out from the city, right? Weston is also more, suburban. It's an acre zoning, so the houses are farther apart, and the builders are able to build larger houses because there's more land and there's more space, right?
Sure.
Also not as neighborhood driven. My clients who like Weston tend to want a little more privacy. They don't want to see their neighbors in their backyards. And also, of course, great schools and great commute into the city, but you have more privacy and woods and land. And you actually get a little bit of a better value in Weston than you do even in Wellesley or Newton. Just because the nature is there's more space,
Sure.
The land value isn't quite as high. So once you get into Wellesley, there's 25,000 people in the town. The houses are closer. The zoning, it runs from 10,000 square feet, up to about 20,000. There are some lots a little bit bigger, but it's very neighborhood driven. And sidewalks everywhere, people are walking everywhere. It's a little more, I always say it's a little more transitional if you're not sure if you want to leave the city. You're still in a town, you have that community, but you still have a little bit of a groove going.
And what's awesome about Wellesley is that downtown area. There is really a lot there.
It's great. It's great. As a mom as well, I have 2 teenagers. 2 of them are teenagers, and they can walk places. It fosters that independence, which I love. They love to walk around town, and they'll go to Starbucks, and they can have jobs and walk to their jobs. We also have lots of walking paths through the town as well, which a lot of people don't know about. One in particular is called the Brook Path, which crosses through town. So it's really like a get out and move kind of place. And there's places to move too. You can walk to the restaurants, you can, walk to the supermarket, Whole Foods. So I do love Wellesley. It's a really special place.
Now let's talk about the real estate market for a moment. In recent weeks, we've talked to some brokers and agents in downtown Boston, and they're saying how they're seeing that high end, meaning 2 million plus, slow down a little bit. 1 to 2 is still pretty busy, and anything below $1 million is still low inventory. Things are moving quickly. What are you seeing out in that Metro West area?
Yeah. Well, it's all different according to price band and also town, of course. If we focus on Wellesley, for example, we don't really have the inventory in that million and under that we used to have, unfortunately, for a few reasons. Builders have come and dealt directly with the sellers, and built newer homes on those where a smaller home once sat. And there's also not many places for people to age and to trade down, if you will, empty nesters. Yep. We don't have that kind of inventory where there's, first floor living and places for them to go. So a lot of people are aging in place a little bit longer and staying in their homes. And the market, that market has also reached new heights. So we're seeing 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths going for $1.2 million now on a small piece of land. Yeah. So we don't have as much of that million and under. But yes, the 1 to 2 is hot. We have a lot more inventory. It built up this spring in that 1.5 to 2 range, but they're going. Things are going. I've been so busy all summer, which is busier than last year even, selling homes, people trying to get in. And then the 2 million and up, yes, I would consider that our high end as well. It's slower just because there are less people. But on a personal level, I've had great clients and our inventory has moved, and it's relatively healthy.
If priced right, it will sell.
If priced right, it will sell. Exactly.
When you're sitting down with your sellers right now, what are some of the key points that you're hitting on to make sure that the property moves quickly? Because in a market like this, sellers get anxious if things aren't moving quickly.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure from your end that you're structuring everything correctly to meet expectations.
Yes, I am so into staging. I love it. I love it. And I do think it translates into dollars for people. And when people say staging, sometimes they get offended, that we're criticizing their decor. And it's just living in your house is very different than selling your house. People want to be able to envision themselves in your house. We have one house on the market, which is this beautiful Victorian home that was restored in recent years back to its Victorian era. So it's as if, I always say it's as if Queen Victoria lived there. That's how meticulous it was done, and it's beautiful. But that's a very, very specific buyer, and my seller knows that. And so many of his beautiful, beautiful antiques, we scaled back on, and he sold a lot of them. We took down a lot of the heavy curtains, and he donated them to an opera.
Very cool.
Yeah, really cool. And just because we need to appeal to a broader range, and by doing that, it lets people see the beautiful moldings around the windows. They're not drawn to the heavy curtains. So you want people to see the bones of the house and not be attracted to either your family pictures, your beautiful family, or in that case, the gorgeous dark antiques throughout the house. Staging is so important.
It's a great point. Sellers, don't take it personal.
Don't take it personally. I know I'm not criticizing your decor, but also styles change now every 4 or 5 years. I love interior design, and we post a lot of that on our Instagram. But styles do change. Even from 2005, 2006, when I started, it was a lot of beiges and glazed cabinets and the granite that you got at Home Depot with the specs on it, right? Yeah. I mean, and now, as you know, everything is white and crisp and, you know, streamlined, transitional, if not modern. So, you know, even in the last, you know, 10 years, things have changed so drastically. So it's hard to keep up.
And when it comes to staging, which is funny, you know, it's been so popular on the West Coast for so long, and it slowly made its way east. And now, you know, even just a few years ago, people would talk about staging, but it wasn't as prevalent as it is in today's market. It's really necessary for most properties to be staged.
Yeah.
What people don't realize is that, yes, staging costs money in most cases, but it's usually less than the first price reduction, right?
That's what we say. We use that line. That's perfect. And staging doesn't necessarily mean we have to bring in furniture. A lot of times it means we're taking out furniture.
Sure, decluttering.
Yeah, I hate to say clutter, right?
Bring in the dumpster.
But yeah, I don't.
Let's go. Yeah.
I love dumpsters. But yeah, and home goods has become our best friend. You know, I'll even go shopping for my clients. You know, have them give me a budget. And then my assistant and I, we love it, go to Home Goods and fill our carriages and come back and stage it. And that works really well too. Because to your point, it's a lot less than a price reduction.
Something to think about, for sure. Great information, Teri. And if people out there would like to connect with you directly, you mentioned you had an Instagram handle, which is kind of the trend of real estate.
Yes. At Teri Adler Homes is my Instagram sign or tag. What do you want to call it? Handle, thank you.
And website is simple, TeriAdler.com.
TeriAdler.com, yep. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. If you're buying or selling your home in the Weston, Wellesley area and would like to connect with Teri and her team directly over at Pinnacle Residential Properties, once again, reach out to TeriAdler.com. Remember, we have more tips just like this right here on Boston.com.